Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Dear Sishyas and well-wishers, you would recollect that on the 18th March, we were blessed to deliver a talk on the Great Equations, Part 1, the book authored by Jnana Swamigal, on the occasion of the 48th Aradhana of Swamigal. And it was promised that the other parts of the lecture would be delivered during the Jayanti celebrations this year, October or November 2023. But there was a request, there were many requests came that will it be possible to complete the rest of the parts in one go and release it so that there is continuity. And therefore, praying to at the lotus feet of Acharya, we are endeavoring to do the rest of the parts in sequence and release it in one go. So today we will focus on the Great Equations Part 2. You would recollect that this is where we left Part 1. That this universe is nothing but God. And this individual soul is nothing but God. And the example which we dealt was whether it is a pot made out of mud or a necklace made out of gold. One has to see the mud spread all over the pot and the gold found all over the necklace. Like in a printed book, you find the contents all over the book, but what is holding the contents is the underlying paper. Like that, God, the omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, holds this entire universe, including the individual souls. And it's like it's the threads which combine and make into a fabric, and fabric make into a cloth, and a cloth which ultimately become a dress. But even in a dress, we will be able to identify the threads. Even in a pot, we will be able to identify the mud. Even in a necklace, we will be able to identify the gold. So, Vedanta teaches us the technique of how to see God in spite of this universe, in spite of these individual souls. Is it possible? Vedanta teaches the technique through the techniques of Vairagya and Abhyasa. Vairagya to pull us away from the material forces, detachment towards this material world, and Abhyasa which inches us slowly towards the path of Vedanta and ultimately to salvation. And it also gives us the assurance, look here, as you see the mud on the pot and the gold on the necklace and the threads on the cloth, on the fabric or the dress, you don't have to shredder the entire shirt or saree to see the thread. You can identify the thread in spite of it being a saree. This way you can see the presence, omnipresence of God enveloping the universe in spite of the fact material universe exists. You don't have to dissolve it. We don't have the power to dissolve it. You don't have to ignore it, overlook it. Let it be there, you can still see God, which is distinct and different from this material world. This is where we left last time. Now, all that is fine, but tell us, how do we do it? Is the question. So, before getting into the question of how do we do it, let us understand how this misconception happens, because we are making a statement that the content of a book is ultimately held by the paper, which is something distinct and which is visible to us. Similarly, Now, please tell us, how do we distinguish between God and this material world? Why is this material world showing to us and not God? Now, Swamigal gives a couple of examples for us to understand. He says, let's assume you are currently in one place, you want to reach another place. So, three things happen on account of that. A, you don't want to be in this place. B, you want to be there in that place. C, there is some reason, good or bad, for you to move from this place to that place. Now, you are sitting. You don't want to sit. So there is an intention to change the posture. A, you are sitting. B, you don't want to sit. And therefore you are changing the posture because sitting somehow gives you some feeling. So there is a change. Same is the case of knowledge. We don't know something. We must therefore know something else. Because we don't know and because we need to know, the process of this transformation to know from what we do not know to know, because we feel ourselves inadequate and therefore the need to know. So these three variations keep happening in our life day in and day out, which Vedanta identifies as three states. The first state is what is otherwise is nothing but God. We non-equate it with something other than God. So there is a screening happening over what is otherwise God. When you take the book, we are so engrossed with the printed content that we forget the underlying paper, even though it is there. So, a paper is eclipsed or screened by the printed material. So, non-equating or non-perception of God. Screening, which is called Avarna. Now, it doesn't just stop with screening. The printed material projects itself of so much of interest and inducement that we think that the book is nothing but the printed material, forgetting the paper. So it projects as something else. One is non-perception, which is Avarna. Second is misequating itself as something else. Superimposition. What? We call it as Vikshaepa. So, Vedanta teaches us a screening followed by a superimposition. A rope gets screened and a rope gets projected as a snake. So both happen simultaneously. It screens the real rope and projects a false snake. These two together starts giving us or yielding us either pleasures or pain in material life. So these pleasures or pains resulting out of this material life, Vedanta calls it as dirt or as mala. It defines both pleasure and pain as only dirt, as far as Vedanta is concerned. So these three states happen. Non-perception because of screening, misequation, understanding it incorrectly, and three, because of the misunderstanding, it results in pleasures or pain called dirt or mala. Having understood this concept, now Vedanta teaches us to say, you have to actually reverse the process. So how do you reverse the process? You have to first go and cleanse that dirt. That's the reversal. For example, Swamigal cites a wonderful simile. See, we are, say, on the 20th step. We keep ascending from the 20th step to the ground level. Now we need to reach 20th step. We can't just bump or jump from the ground level to the 20th step. We can't fly. You need to climb step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to reach 20th step. So when you descend, you need to ascend, but the ascent is a reversal process. You don't directly ascend to the 20th step. So you need to first cleanse that dirt. That's the first stage. Second stage, we need to therefore remove the misequation. And once we clean the dirt, remove the misequation, then we can go and crack the non-perception and find out the real truth, which is bliss. How do you do it? Swamigal says, dirt, mala, pleasures and pain, which accumulate as dirt, has to be cleansed, and the only mechanism for it to be cleansed is through selfless action called Karma Yoga. It is not mere actions. Mere actions will produce pleasures and pains. Selfless action neutralizes this. If we do it with selfish motive, we gather more and more dirt. We accumulate more and more, wall after wall, layer after layer. It becomes thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. And therefore our misconceptions and non-perception widens. So how do you reverse the process? Do the action in a selfless manner. Therefore resort to Karma Yoga. Selfless action is a precondition to enter into the world of Vedanta. Whatever we have been doing till yesterday in a selfish way, we should now convert the same actions into a selfless action. So, selfless action results in cleaning the dirt. 2. Misequations or distractions. Multifarious distractions we are seeing. Material world is always that induces towards more and more distractions. So misequations happen because of distractions. So if you want distraction to go away and get a focus, Vedanta teaches us by resorting to the path of Bakthi Yoga, selfless prayers and worship, in a focused manner on divine forms, on divine actions and divine deeds. So Mala goes by doing karma. Misequations go by, distractions go by focusing on bhakti. So once these two steps are crossed, selfless action and total surrender in the hands of God, leads us to crack the layer of non-perception. And here Vedanta teaches you then Guru guides you into the marga called Jnana Marga. So each one is a step. See, it's like a ladder with several rungs. From the ground, we use the ladder to reach the top. Will it be prudent by, after climbing 3 steps on the ladder, we start cutting the first 2 rungs? Does it make sense? After reaching the 8th rung of the ladder, 3 more remaining, we use the saw and start cutting the first 7 layers beneath us. We keep cutting the ladder. Does it make sense? So, the preachings which are in variance to Vedanta could be broadly classified into 2. Someone guiding you, you don't need bhakti, you don't need karma. Jnana is enough, direct. Like from the ground, you can reach the 20th step. 9.9 out of 10 we will fall down. So this is not a recommended step. Similarly, someone can also say, no, look here, how long can you be doing karma? How long can you be doing bhakti? Give it up. Do it for some time. You have risen. Now start cutting it, throw it out. Now you get into jnana. That will teach you, that will give you the necessary results. It's not going to work. Because Vedanta says, how long should you do karma? It gives you the prescription. One has to do karma yoga till such time one has smarane or attachment to one's body or embodiment. That's the rule. Till such time one is attached to one's body, because it is law of nature. Anything which has a form, a body, a human body, cannot remain actionless. It can go actionless when it is physically disabled or physically detached. Otherwise, the difference between physically disabled and physically detached, physical disability need not mean mental disability. The mind will still keep agitating. It will add to a lot of desires. It will feel hurt for having not fulfilled its desires. Whereas once it reaches the stage of detachment, it doesn't matter whatever happens to my body, karma is not required at that phase. So till such time we are attached to our body. If somebody suggests you can give up karma, that may not be a prudent approach. So when can you give bhakti? How long can you be performing bhakti? Vedanta says, till such time you are dependent on something beyond you. I am emotionally dependent on my family. I am dependent on passing my time watching television, reading books, traveling, socializing, speaking. I need people around me. Till one has the sense of dependence, then Vedanta says, if you want to be in the marga of Vedanta, your dependence should be only on God, and that will arise only through bhakti. Each one is prescribed. So, till such time you have a body to which you are attached, do karma. Till such time you are dependent on the outside world for any object, for satisfaction. We should derive satisfaction only through bhakti. That should be the level of focus for somebody to get into the marga of Vedanta. Nothing else should distract us. And therefore, similar question is asked, okay, see, like you give bhakti, give up karma, you should give up jnana also, because that is also a rung. Because salvation is a step beyond jnana marga. So when should I give up acquiring knowledge or understanding knowledge? Vedanta says, till such time you feel and undergo the real experience of bliss, you cannot give up jnana marga. So, sometimes we may climb the rungs of the ladder to go, but out of necessity start climbing down. So it happens. We go up and we go down we oscillate in our lives through our minds. Therefore, we need the ladder having all the three, is what Vedanta prescribes to an aspirant. Don't give up bhakti. Don't give up action. Do selfless action, surrendered bhakti, and read Vedanta with the sole objective of getting to that experience. Not for the sheer satisfaction of it. It's worthless. We learn a lot for our satisfaction, to satisfy somebody, all that is fine. But this knowledge of this sacred knowledge of bliss should be learned only to achieve, ultimately get that experience in life. Otherwise, this will become one more subject in our life. So, and Swamigal gives again a very easy, understandable simile. A child which sleeps holding an apple. Once it is in deep sleep, the apple drops from the child's hand. The child doesn't attempt to hold it, nor does the child actively decides to throw it. It neither dumps nor holds. It just goes out in the hand of the child because it is involuntary. It's in deep sleep. Karma, bhakti, and jnana should move away from us in an effortless manner, as how the apple slips from the hand of the child. This is prerequisite, says Swamigal. Now, Vedanta seeks to focus on this misequation because we have understood the format. We should understand how why at all this misequation happens. Namely, mistaking the world to be something distinct from God. Mistaking the snake, a rope, to be a snake. And in his own inimitable style, Swamigal gives us a couple of examples for us to understand. Look here. If someone says 2 plus 2 is 4, then that is truth, that is acceptable. If someone says 2 plus 2 is not 4, that is unacceptable because it is a mere negation. It's a retaliation. No, I don't agree. Vidanta. But if someone is going to say 2 plus 2 is 5, then it becomes a false statement. So, anyone who attempts to now say 2 plus 2 is 5, then the falsity can get expanded into infinite times. Anywhere from 5 to except 4, you can put any number of times in multiples. It can be infinite. Same is what is happening to us. We keep telling this world of pluralities to be, in one case it is 2 plus 2 is 6, in another case 2 plus 2 is 8, in another case 2 plus 2 is 12. So other than truth, we start attaching importance to these false numbers which assumes numerous forms and numerous names. If someone sees a rope and says, "This is a rope," then that is truth. If someone says, "This is not a rope," that is negation. But if someone is going to say, "No, this is snake," one can say it is snake. Yet another person can say it is a stick. A third person can say it's a cleft. So one who assumes it to be a snake won't go near it. One who assumes it to be a stick takes it on hand. One who finds it to be a cleft tries to pounce on it. So the attitude depends on how you associate yourself with your misequation because of false perception, or rather a false superimposition. This is how we keep multiplying this world of universe. Endless game. It's simply a baffling, endless game. And Vedanta teaches, therefore, a few basics for us to understand how this misconception happens. Why do we attach? Why do we pursue this thing? Misconception happens is no clear. But why and how does it happen? Needs an explanation. So for which Swamigal first takes a simile and then explains the truth. He says, let's take the statement. We are saying this universe is God. We are also saying all these individual souls are nothing but God. So, universe is God, individual soul is God. Can we therefore come to a conclusion, this universe is this individual soul? That will become dangerously wrong. That will become a false statement. And this is exactly how we start doing the mistake. We are considering these things in the world are true and start equating these things to be true. And why do we say so? Because it is a mixture of two things. It's a mixture of bliss plus a superimposition over the bliss. This is exactly how Vedanta explains it with an example. Let's take the case of a gold. See, gold is a substance. Now, we can say this bangle or necklace is made out of gold. It's a true statement. Correct? We can also say gold has brightness. This necklace is made out of gold. Correct statement. Gold emits brightness. Perfect. Can we therefore come to an inference? Necklace emits brightness. It's false. Because this necklace, because made out of gold, is showing brightness. Suppose the necklace is made out of a coconut shell. It's made out of bamboo. It's made out of some wood. It won't emit brightness. So, brightness is not the quality of necklace. Brightness is associated to the substance called gold. Now we'll take the second example. Someone says, wearing this necklace, it hurts my neck. It's very heavy. Now, that is the right statement. Can someone say, this gold is hurting me? That's the wrong statement. So, let's take two things. Gold as a substance emits brightness. Necklace as a form can hurt if it has rough edges. So hurting is the quality attached to the necklace. Brightness is a quality attached to gold. Because a necklace is made out of gold, we start superimposing the brightness of gold into the necklace and say, this necklace is bright. Or this gold hurts my neck. When gold per se doesn't carry the property of hurting, when necklace per se doesn't carry the property of emitting brightness, this mixture together, this alloy produces this complete confusion. And this confusion, Vedanta calls it as Adisaya. Don't start examining it. You will be nowhere. Accept it. It's a fact. Accept it, therefore we can get over it. Keep exploring it, it's endless tunnel. You'll never get an answer. That's how it operates. Because these two qualities get intermingled. See, world is God, universe is God. God is Ananda, Satchidananda. Can you therefore say universe is Satchidananda? Dangerously false. So Vedanta says why this confusion happens. As long as we forget the substance, superimpose the properties which are relatable to the substance into the form and into the name, and forget the substance, then we will continue to live in the world of Misequations. We will continue to live in the world of superimpositions. And now, as we saw in the first talk, Vairagya, detachment, Anabhyasa, pursuit. Vedanta now teaches us a technique how to do Viveka, discrimination. The power to discriminate the substance from the form, the power to discriminate the quality attached to the substance from the quality attached to the form, from the character of a substance, the character of the form. Vedanta calls it as Viveka. See, when we derive happiness, it is not because of the form or the name that gives that happiness to us. God per se is bliss or Ananda, and therefore it gives us happiness. Then why dukkha? Then why pain? God should only give us happiness. Therefore, Vedanta gives an example to make us understand. Look here, possessing wealth, power, status, all this gives us happiness. But one can acquire or amass wealth in two ways. He can follow the righteous way and earn wealth, which will lead to happiness. He can resort to an unrighteous way and amass wealth and land into jail, which will give pain. So, pleasure or pain is a derivative based on the way one pursues it. It has nothing to do with God or nothing to do with Ananda. If you do the righteous way and earn, we call it as dharma. And if we use the unrighteous way to go and earn, it then becomes adharma or harmful. Dharma leads to pleasures and therefore to punya. Adharma leads to pain and therefore papa. So the first step is do dharma and avoid adharma. Elementary. And for doing dharma and avoiding dharma, Vedanta wants us to follow two steps. Direct teachings of God, which is called as Shruti Vedas. Second source, teachings through the sages called Smritis. So what is dharma and what is adharma is prescribed only by Shrutis and Smritis, not our worldly wisdom, not our own laws and bylaws. We are bound by our laws of the nation for material purposes, for complying with the constitutional norms as a duty of a citizen. We need to obey law. Shastras make it very clear. We should be obedient to the king's law. But we are talking of bliss and truth. That law is governed by two sets of sources of knowledge. Direct knowledge through the Vedas and the secondary knowledge through the sages. And says, if you can equip yourself to understand it, then fine, which most of us are not, or almost all of us are not, and therefore go to a guru who knows both those sources. And listen to the guru as to what should be our dharmic life. See, we waste our time by asking repeated questioning even without plunging into this. And therefore, Swamigal closes this chapter with this simile. See, the law of gravity will exist forever. Whether you may write it in a textbook or put it in a computer. Whether you burn the textbook or break the computer. No. By breaking this computer, I will disprove there is no law of gravity. You fail because law of gravity is independent of that. Fire burns. It's a truth. Somebody puts a finger, a scientist burns a finger and still writes, no, fire is it's quite chill and cold. As a scientist, I declare it so. Will world accept it? The quality of fire is to burn. So, unless we learn by experience, experience is the teacher here. And before experience, it is faith. And what is faith? Faith which we inherited through heritage, reposing it on our gurus, who alone know both these sources of knowledge, the direct and the secondary. And therefore, make it very clear whether we believe or we don't believe. It's our fault if we don't believe. If we missed a chance, God has nothing to grip. It's us who should be feeling sorry, as gravitational pull continue to exist whether we believe it or not. Fire burns whether we believe it or not. This universe is God and we are nothing but God is a universal truth. It's bliss. We need to feel. And the first important step is doing things in a righteous way, doing it as dharma, so that we first avoid papa. And how to convert, now once we get out of papa, we get into the zone of punya, we can avoid acquiring that punya, the phala to us by engaging ourselves in righteous ways. That is precisely what we started in the beginning. Selfless action called Karma Yoga and surrendered Bhakti called the Bakthi Yoga. Do both of this as dharmic, but without acquiring the benefits of it to oneself. If you acquire the benefits, then that benefit will give us further births to enjoy. But if you don't acquire the benefit, it liquidates, it dilutes, it slowly dispenses the need and says your Misequations you will understand. Your dependence on God will increase. And I will take you to the next position through the guidance of our Guru in teaching you Jnana. So, let's do dharmic acts. And dharmic acts in a selfless, through selfless action and surrendered bhakti. Let's see part 3 sooner. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.